Welcome back to our channel. Today we're diving deep into one of the Bible's most fascinating yet often overlooked stories, the story of Zipporah, the mysterious and courageous first wife of Moses. While her name doesn't frequently appear in discussions about key biblical figures, her life is rich with spiritual significance, cultural depth, and a series of events that will completely reshape your understanding of Moses' journey. Have you ever wondered why Moses, the great leader of Israel, faced death not from an enemy, but from God himself, and how Zipporah, in an unexpected and shocking moment, stepped forward to save him in a way that has baffled biblical scholars for centuries? Zipporah's story is one of mystery, courage, and intrigue. Her origins, her marriage to Moses, and the intense challenges she faced while being married to one of history's greatest figures are often lost in the larger narrative. But today, we're uncovering the details that make her an extraordinary character. In this video, we will break down the layers of her life, exploring not only her cultural background and her marriage, but also the pivotal role she played in Moses' divine mission to deliver Israel. You'll discover the surprising moments that make Zipporah a crucial figure in God's grand plan and how her actions echo throughout the scriptures, showcasing her strength, bravery, and the unique position she held in the biblical story. As we dive into the scriptures, we'll reveal how Zipporah's actions weren't just incidental, they were part of a grander, divine plan that connects to Moses' leadership and the broader story of God's chosen people. So, if you're ready to uncover the hidden depths of this enigmatic character, stay with us until the end. You won't want to miss a single moment of the revelations we have in store today. If you find this video insightful, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and share it with others who are searching for deeper biblical wisdom. And as always, we invite you to engage with us in the comments below. Share your thoughts, questions, and let's grow in wisdom together. Zipporah's story begins in the book of Exodus during a critical and uncertain period in Moses' life. After fleeing from Egypt to escape the wrath of Pharaoh, Moses finds refuge in the land of Midian. It's here, in this foreign land, that he encounters the 7 daughters of Jethro, also known as Reuel, a priest of Midian. The Midianites, descendants of Abraham through his wife Keturah, Genesis 25:1-2, were a nomadic people residing in the region of what is now northwestern Arabia. Zipporah's introduction is far from ordinary. Her story unfolds at a and iconic setting in the Bible where significant encounters often take place, such as those involving Isaac's wife, Rebekah, Genesis 24:11-20, and Jacob's wife, Rachel, Genesis 29:9-10. Wells were not just places of water in the ancient Near East, they were essential hubs for social and communal interaction. In Exodus 2:16-21, we see the first signs of Zipporah's story. Now a priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came to draw water and fill the troughs for their father's flock. Some shepherds came and drove them away, but Moses got up and came to their rescue and watered their flock. Moses, despite being a foreigner, steps into the role of protector, defending the women from the shepherds who attempted to drive them away. This act foreshadows his destiny as the protector and deliverer of Israel, a role that will define his future. When the daughters return home earlier than expected, their father Jethro is surprised and asks about the reason for their quick return. They recount how an Egyptian man, Moses, rescued them and even watered their flock. This prompts Jethro to invite Moses into their home, where he is welcomed and soon agrees to stay with them. Hospitality in Middle Eastern culture was not merely an act of kindness, it was a sacred duty. And Jethro's gesture of offering Moses shelter and later giving his daughter Zipporah in marriage reflects these customs. Zipporah, whose name means bird or little bird in Hebrew, becomes Moses' wife, marking a significant turning point in his life. This union is more than just a marriage, it symbolizes Moses' full integration into Midianite society, a new beginning after his flight from Egypt. Through this marriage, Moses gains not only a wife but also a new family, protection, and a position within Jethro's household. In Exodus 3:1, the scriptures tell us, "Now Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the far side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. This verse reveals that Moses didn't just marry Zipporah, but also took on responsibilities within her family, tending Jethro's flock and becoming an integral part of their household. This further cements Moses' place in Midianite society and sets the stage for his eventual return to Egypt as God's chosen leader, tasked with delivering the Israelites from slavery. Zipporah's heritage is deeply rooted in the ancient history of the Midianites, a tribe that traces its lineage back to Abraham through his second wife, Keturah. This connection to Abraham places the Midianites within the broader family of nations that descended from the patriarch, yet they maintained a distinct identity separate from the Israelites. Genesis chapter 25, verses 1-2. Abraham had taken another wife, whose name was Keturah. She bore him Zimran, Jokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. This passage shows that Midian, the ancestor of the Midianites, was one of the 6 sons born to Abraham and Keturah. The descendants of these sons, including Midian, became separate tribes, each developing its own culture and religious practices. The Midianites, though related to the Israelites, were considered foreigners in the broader biblical narrative. The Midianites were a nomadic tribe, known for their trade and pastoral lifestyle, often moving through the arid regions of the Arabian Peninsula. This nomadic way of life influenced their cultural and spiritual practices. As a daughter of Jethro, a priest of Midian, Zipporah would have been well versed in the religious traditions of her people. Exodus chapter 18, verse 1. Now Jethro, the priest of Midian and father-in-law of Moses, heard of everything God had done for Moses and for his people Israel, and how the Lord had brought Israel out of Egypt. Jethro's position as a priest suggests that the Midianites had an organized system of worship, likely involving sacrifices and rituals, though their practices were distinct from those of the Israelites. Jethro is portrayed in the Bible as a wise and God-fearing man, indicating that the Midianites had a reverence for the divine, even if their understanding and worship of God differed from that of the Israelites. Zipporah's Midianite heritage and upbringing would have shaped her worldview and her spiritual understanding. The Midianites, while acknowledging the God of Abraham, likely incorporated other elements into their worship, as was common in many ancient Near Eastern cultures. This background set her apart from the Israelites, who were bound by the covenant established with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and later the laws given through Moses. The marriage between Moses and Zipporah would have required careful navigation of their differing cultural and religious backgrounds. Moses, raised as an Egyptian prince and later called by God to lead the Israelites, would have had a distinct understanding of God's covenant with Israel. Zipporah, on the other hand, brought the influence of her Midianite culture into their union, creating a dynamic that was likely both enriching and challenging. Exodus chapter 18, verse 12. Then Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, brought a burnt offering and other sacrifices to God. And Aaron came with all the elders of Israel to eat a meal with Moses' father-in-law in the presence of God. This verse highlights an interesting moment of cultural and spiritual exchange. Jethro, a Midianite priest, offers sacrifices to God, and Aaron, along with the elders of Israel, joins in a communal meal. This event signifies a moment of unity and mutual respect between the two cultures despite their differences. It also shows the potential influence of Zipporah's family on Moses and the Israelites as they shared in religious rituals together. The differences between the Midianite and Israelite practices also created potential sources of tension. For example, the Israelites were strictly monotheistic, worshiping Yahweh alone, while the Midianites may have had a more syncretistic approach, incorporating different deities and practices into their worship. This contrast would have required Moses and Zipporah to find a balance in their household, particularly as Moses was being shaped by God to lead the Israelites according to the divine commandments. Numbers chapter 25, verses 1-3. While Israel was staying in Shittim, the men began to indulge in sexual immorality with Moabite women, who invited them to the sacrifices to their gods. The people ate the sacrificial meal and bowed down before these gods. So Israel yoked themselves to the Baal of Peor, and the Lord's anger burned against them, although this passage refers to the Moabites, It illustrates the broader issue of Israelite men being influenced by foreign women who led them into idolatry. While there is no indication that Zipporah led Moses astray, the potential for cultural and religious conflict was present in any marriage between an Israelite and a foreign woman. This underscores the uniqueness of Zipporah's story, as she managed to maintain her place in Moses' life without disrupting his mission or covenant with God. One of the most mysterious and controversial episodes involving Zipporah is found in Exodus 4, where she plays a crucial role in what appears to be a life or death situation for Moses. This brief yet dramatic account has puzzled scholars and theologians for centuries due to its cryptic nature and the significant theological implications it carries. Exodus chapter 4, verses 24 to 26. At a lodging place on the way, the Lord met Moses and was about to kill him. But Zipporah took a flint knife, cut off her son's foreskin, and touched Moses' feet with it. "Surely you are a bridegroom of blood to me," she said. So the Lord let him alone. At that time she said, "bridegroom of blood," referring to circumcision. This passage presents a challenging scenario where God, who had just commissioned Moses to lead the Israelites out of Egypt, suddenly seeks to kill him. The reason for God's anger is not explicitly stated in the text, but it is widely believed to be due to Moses' failure to circumcise his son, a crucial sign of the covenant between God and his people. Genesis chapter 17, verses 10 to 14. In Genesis chapter 17, verses 10 to 11, states, "This is my covenant with you and your descendants after you, the covenant you are to keep. Every male among you shall be circumcised. You are to undergo circumcision, and it will be the sign of the covenant between me and you." Circumcision was a critical marker of the Israelites' identity and their covenant relationship with God going back to Abraham. By not circumcising his son, Moses was neglecting a fundamental aspect of his faith and the covenantal relationship that God established with Abraham's descendants. This neglect could be seen as a serious breach, especially given Moses' role as the leader chosen by God to deliver his people. In this moment of divine wrath, it is Zipporah who acts decisively. She takes a flint knife, a tool often associated with purity and ritual in ancient cultures, and performs the circumcision herself. Her action suggests that she was aware of the covenantal requirements and understood the seriousness of the situation, possibly even more than Moses did at that moment. Zipporah's words, "Surely you are a bridegroom of blood to me," have been the subject of much debate. The phrase is ambiguous and could reflect a mix of emotions, including anger, relief, or a deeper acknowledgement of the covenant's significance. Some scholars interpret this phrase as Zipporah's expression of the painful reality of the covenant, symbolized by the shedding of blood which now bound her son and her husband to God's people. Joshua chapter 5, verses 2 to 3. At that time the Lord said to Joshua, "Make flint knives and circumcise the Israelites again." So Joshua made flint knives and circumcised the Israelites at Gibeath Haraloth. This reference to Joshua's use of flint knives for circumcision highlights the continued importance of this ritual and its association with covenantal purity. Zipporah's use of a flint knife ties her actions to this broader biblical theme of circumcision as a sign of consecration and obedience to God. The significance of Zipporah's intervention also raises questions about the dynamics within her marriage to Moses. As a Midianite, Zipporah was not born into the covenant community of Israel, yet her actions demonstrate a profound understanding of its requirements. This episode highlights the tension between their cultural backgrounds and underscores the importance of the covenant in their relationship. It also suggests that Zipporah may have had a deeper spiritual insight or awareness that Moses, preoccupied with his mission, might have overlooked. Deuteronomy chapter 10 verse 16 states, "Circumcise your hearts therefore, and do not be stiff-necked any longer." While this verse speaks metaphorically about circumcising the heart, it ties back to the theme of circumcision as a sign of true commitment to God. Zipporah's quick and decisive action in performing the physical circumcision of her son can be seen as a reflection of her inner understanding of what it means to be in covenant with God, and understanding that transcends mere ritual and points to a deeper spiritual commitment. The circumcision episode is a pivotal moment in the narrative of Moses and Zipporah. It not only saves Moses' life, but also reaffirms the importance of the covenant between God and his people. Zipporah's actions reveal her as a figure of strength and spiritual insight, capable of navigating the complex cultural and religious dynamics of her marriage to Moses. This episode, though brief, offers rich material for reflection on the themes of covenant, obedience, and the role of women in the unfolding story of God's people. Now, let's explore Zipporah's return to Midian. As Moses prepared to lead the Israelites out of Egypt, the Bible provides a brief yet significant mention of Zipporah and her children returning to Midian. This return is mentioned in Exodus 18, where Jethro, Zipporah's father, brings her and her sons back to Moses. Exodus chapter 18, verses 2-3. After Moses had sent away his wife Zipporah, his father and Lord Jethro received her and her 2 sons. One son was named Gershom, for Moses said, "I have become a foreigner in a foreign land," and the other was named Eliezer, for he said, "My father's God was my helper. He saved me from the sword of Pharaoh." This passage implies that at some point during the events leading up to the Exodus, Moses sent Zipporah and their 2 sons, Gershom and Eliezer, back to her father's house in Midian. The reasons for this decision are not explicitly stated in the text, but several possibilities can be considered. Number 1, a strategic decision for safety. One likely reason Moses sent Zipporah and their children back to Midian was for their safety. The mission that God had given Moses to confront Pharaoh and demand the release of the Israelites was fraught with danger. As Moses prepared to face the most powerful ruler in the ancient world, he may have wanted to ensure that his family was out of harm's way. Exodus chapter 4, verse 19. Now the Lord had said to Moses in Midian, "Go back to Egypt, for all those who wanted to kill you are dead," even though the immediate threat to Moses' life had passed. Returning to Egypt still posed significant risks, especially given the anticipated confrontations with Pharaoh and the subsequent plagues. By sending Zipporah and the children back to Midian, Moses could focus entirely on his mission without worrying about their safety. Number 2, challenges of cultural integration. Zipporah's return to Midian also raises questions about the dynamics of her relationship with Moses and the cultural challenges she faced. As a Midianite, Zipporah was not originally part of the Israelite community. Her marriage to Moses meant that she was living among a people with different customs, traditions, and religious practices. Numbers chapter 12, verse 1. Miriam and Aaron began to talk against Moses because of his Cushite wife, for he had married a Cushite. While this verse specifically mentions a Cushite wife, which could refer to Zipporah or another wife Moses may have taken, it highlights the potential tension and prejudice that Zipporah might have faced within the Israelite community. Being married to the leader of the Israelites would have placed her in a challenging position, possibly leading to feelings of isolation or alienation. Returning to her father's house might have provided her with a sense of security and belonging that she struggled to find among the Israelites. Number 3, impact on the family dynamic. The decision to send Zipporah and their children back to Midian also indicates the strain that Moses' mission might have placed on his family. Moses was not only leading a nation out of slavery, but also dealing with the intense demands of being God's chosen leader. This responsibility likely limited his ability to be present with his family, leading to a decision that prioritized his mission over family unity in the short term. Exodus chapter 4, verse 20. So Moses took his wife and sons, put them on a donkey, and started back to Egypt. And he took the staff of God in his hand. Initially, Moses took Zipporah and their sons with him on his return to Egypt, which shows his intention to keep his family close. However, the subsequent decision to send them back to Midian suggests that the unfolding events in Egypt, plagues, confrontations with Pharaoh, and the impending exodus might have made it impractical or unsafe for his family to remain with him. Number 4, reunion and reconciliation. Later in Exodus 18, we see that Jethro brings Zipporah and the children back to Moses after the Israelites have successfully left Egypt. This reunion is significant, not just for Moses and his family, but also for the broader narrative of God's deliverance of Israel. Exodus chapter 18, verses 5-7. Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, together with Moses' sons and wife, came to him in the wilderness, where he was camped near the mountain of God. Jethro had sent word to him, "I, your father-in-law Jethro, am coming to you with your wife and her 2 sons." So Moses went out to meet his father-in-law and bowed down and kissed him. They greeted each other and then went into the tent. This reunion is marked by respect and affection as Moses goes out to meet Jethro and welcomes him with a bow and a kiss. The return of Zipporah and the children symbolizes the restoration of Moses' family after a period of separation. It also highlights the importance of family and kinship ties in the broader narrative of God's covenantal relationship with his people. Now let's explore further the encounter with Miriam and Aaron. Zipporah's final significant appearance in the Bible occurs during a conflict involving Miriam and Aaron, Moses' siblings. This incident, recorded in the book of Numbers, sheds light on the tensions within Moses' family and offers insight into the broader cultural and racial dynamics at play. Numbers chapter 12, verse 1. Miriam and Aaron began to talk against Moses because of his Cushite wife, for he had married a Cushite. This verse is the only direct mention of the conflict, but it carries significant implications. The term Cushite generally refers to a person from Cush, a region associated with modern-day Sudan or Ethiopia, indicating African descent. The debate among scholars centers on whether this Cushite wife is Zipporah or another woman Moses may have married. If the reference is indeed to Zipporah, it suggests that her foreign status and possibly her appearance were points of contention even within Moses' immediate family. The mention of Moses' Cushite wife as a point of contention highlights the cultural and racial tensions that could have affected her acceptance among the Israelites. Zipporah was already an outsider, being a Midianite, and the reference to her as a Cushite might emphasize her foreignness in the eyes of Miriam and Aaron. Deuteronomy chapter 7, verses 3-4. Do not intermarry with them. Do not give your daughters to their sons, or take their daughters for your sons, for they will turn your children away from following me to serve other gods, and the Lord's anger will burn against you and will quickly destroy you, although this command was given later. It reflects the general concern among the Israelites about intermarriage with foreign nations. Such marriages were feared to lead to idolatry and a departure from the covenant with God. Miriam and Aaron's criticism might have stemmed from a deep-seated fear of cultural and religious contamination, which often accompanied interracial marriages in that era. Beyond cultural and racial tensions, this incident might also reflect jealousy and power dynamics within the leadership of Israel. Miriam and Aaron were both prominent figures in their own right, Miriam as a prophetess and Aaron as the high priest. Their criticism of Moses could have been rooted in jealousy over Moses' unique relationship with God and his leadership position. Numbers chapter 12, verse 2, "Has the Lord spoken only through Moses?" they asked. "Hasn't he also spoken through us?" And the Lord heard this. This verse reveals that the issue was not just about Moses' marriage, but also about the perceived inequality in God's communication with them. Miriam and Aaron felt sidelined, questioning why Moses seemed to have a more direct line to God. Their criticism of Moses' wife might have been a way to undermine his authority, using her foreign status as a point of attack. God's response to this incident is swift and severe. He calls Moses, Aaron, and Miriam to the tent of meeting, where he defends Moses and rebukes Miriam and Aaron for speaking against him. Numbers chapter 12, verses 6-8. He said, "Listen to my words. When there is a prophet among you, I, the Lord, reveal myself to them in visions. I speak to them in dreams. But this is not true of my servant Moses. He is faithful in all my house. With him I speak face to face. Clearly and know in riddles he sees the form of the Lord. Why then were you not afraid to speak against my servant Moses?" God's defense of Moses underscores the special relationship he had with him, which was unmatched by any other prophet or leader. God's anger is kindled against Miriam and Aaron, but it is Miriam who bears the brunt of the punishment. Numbers chapter 12, verse 10. When the cloud lifted from above the tent, Miriam's skin was leprous. It became as white as snow. Aaron turned toward her and saw that she had a defiling skin disease, Miriam's leprosy, a condition that rendered her ritually unclean and isolated her from the community, can be seen as a symbolic punishment. It might reflect the consequences of her attempt to exclude and marginalize Moses' wife due to her foreignness. Ironically, the punishment of leprosy, which made her white as snow, could be seen as a divine rebuke against her criticism of a woman who was likely of darker complexion. Miriam's leprosy and the subsequent plea from Aaron for her healing show a moment of repentance and reconciliation. Moses, in his humility and compassion, intercedes for his sister. Numbers chapter 12, verses 13 to 15. So Moses cried out to the Lord, "Please God, heal her." The Lord replied to Moses, "If her father had spit in her face, would she not have been in disgrace for 7 days? Confine her outside the camp for 7 days. After that she can be brought back." So Miriam was confined outside the camp for 7 days, and the people did not move on till she was brought back. Miriam's confinement outside the camp serves as a period of purification and reflection. It also shows the severity with which God views the sins of jealousy, racism, and rebellion against his chosen leader. After 7 days, Miriam is restored to the community. But this episode remains a powerful lesson about the dangers of allowing cultural and racial prejudices to influence relationships within the community of God's people. The encounter with Miriam and Aaron provides a final, revealing glimpse into the complexities surrounding Zipporah's role as Moses' wife. Whether the Cushite wife refers directly to Zipporah or another woman, the incident highlights the cultural and racial tensions that could have impacted her acceptance within the Israelite community. It also underscores the challenges Moses faced, not only in leading a nation, but in managing family dynamics complicated by issues of race, culture, and jealousy. This episode serves as a reminder of the importance of humility, unity, and God's impartial judgment in the community of believers. In conclusion, Zipporah's story, though brief, is filled with mystery and significance. As Moses' first wife, she played a crucial role in his life, from their initial meeting in Midian to the critical moment where she saved his life. Her story reminds us of the complexities of cultural and spiritual differences and the strength needed to navigate them. While the Bible does not give us many details about Zipporah, what we do know paints a picture of a courageous and capable woman who supported one of the greatest leaders in the Bible. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of Zipporah's life. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with others who might find it interesting. And as always, stay tuned for more insights from the Bible. God bless you.